Hello everyone, it is the AI developer back at you once again with another video. This time we're going to be talking about 20% for tech debt doesn't work. 5 traps that will stop your technical vision from happening. This is going to be one of those articles that is going to be more leaning more toward the engineers that are more senior, I'm assuming, but if you're junior or aspiring, it is one that is going to be insightful for you as well, so you can understand kind of how things work when you're more so on the side of managing teams as opposed to just having to focus strictly on code, right? So let's jump right into the article here. So most startups are like this. Founder has a product hypothesis. Idea needs to be developed quickly to validate it with the market to get some feedback. Founding team has a limited budget. Usually goes through multiple iterations or pivots. There's no time to deliberate on design patterns, frameworks, or software architecture. They pick what works for them here and now. So that's startups, right? Fast forward a year, everything goes well. Company gains traction. User base is growing. Additional engineers are hired. Now the problems start to appear. So the tech complexity is increasing, and the new hires are not happy with the state of the code base. Engineers can't just build one product feature after another. The code must be constantly optimized, cleaned up, and updated. Development processes must be automated as much as possible to guarantee a working product here and now. So I wanted to key in on this green one here because this is something that aspiring and seniors need to make sure that these are things you need to make sure that you're aware of, you're privy to, and that you have on your daily, I want to say your daily checklist as far as like um, development processes, automation, right? Production. I'm quite sure we all have like our these little cheat sheets. So that's something that you want to add to one of your cheat sheets. Everything in darker colors is more of the blockers or issues. So let's continue here. Otherwise, organizational entropy will eventually make systems fragile and stop the entire delivery process. A great example of this is LinkedIn's Operation Inversion, where LinkedIn halted development for 2 months to fix all of its issues. I hadn't heard about this, but this might be something to make a separate video on. It seems interesting. It's time to address the technical debt. So this is talking about today's special guest. Um, so let's see. So back to our story. So the young CTO reads a bit online about recommended ways to tackle it and stumbles upon the practice of dedicating 20% of capacity to purely engineering work. And and here's a quote from Marty Kagan, um, author of Inspired, Empowered, and Transformed, had to say, as well as head of Silicon Valley Product Group. So product management takes 20% of the capacity right off the top and gives this to engineering to spin as they see fit. They might use it to rewrite, re-architect, or refactor problematic parts of the code base, or to swap out database systems, improve system performance. This definitely helps. Setting aside time to address tech debt will bring a ton of value to the tech stack and the product, which includes better stability, performance, quality, etc., as well as the organization and its culture to have increased morale, trust, and decisiveness. So those are all good things, right? These are all great things. But unfortunately, it's not always so simple. So here are 5 dangerous traps that were outlined in this article. One to be careful of when working with that 20% tech debt rule, because it all sounds well and good, but you need to be careful with how you are utilizing it to make sure you're being efficient. So number 1, separate backlogs for product and tech. So okay, all right, so we're utilizing 20% tech debt rule. Everyone's happy with the new change. Engineers are happy that the product team doesn't interfere in their technical work. The product team is glad that they don't have to deal with technicalities and can focus on defining features, right? So here's kind of what that looks like. Here's kind of what it looks like is what's supposed to happen. So the technology is supposed to enable the product, and the product is supposed to drive the technology, right? So, but the reality is different. Product and technology are not separate things. The product must drive technology, and technology must enable the product, as we just seen above here. In this new setup, fixing bug goes to the tech backlog, improving automations goes to the tech backlog, updating libraries and patching security issues goes to the tech backlog. But you cannot let everything tech related land in a separate technical backlog. Almost each of these initiatives has some value for customers or the organization. They improve reliability, security, speed of delivery, and more. If you end up with two buckets, product backlog and tech backlog, focus on this. Every item on the technical list should have a clearly defined business value. Once it does, it should be moved to the product backlog where it gets prioritized along with other product tasks. So this is something you want to write down, because especially if you're managing teams, because you want to make sure that your, you know, your job becomes quite hard when when you're an anchor and you're a senior and you have to manage, a group of engineers, and then you have to also manage, talking with your PM or talking with stakeholders. And we all know how much of a stress and confusion that can be, right? If kind of just working in the industry at different levels. So you want to make sure you have your plan, and you want to make sure, everything you're doing is efficient and organized, right? So also you want to be pragmatic. So 20% dedicated to tech work is 1/5 of the entire product capacity. So you could say that's 1 day a week. So you got 5 days a week, Monday to Friday. This could be your Monday. So this means you should reserve that only for critical activities that are too hard to explain to non-tech stakeholders. So this is critical. Make sure you guys write that down. So only reserve that for critical activities that are too hard to explain to non-tech stakeholders. So you want to make sure those are the things that you're dedicating that time to. You can use a PR/FAQ document as an exercise to help define such value. If you cannot name it clearly, maybe it's not something worth pursuing, at least at this time. Number 2, the company doesn't understand the value of your work. So let's talk about the value of technical work. So you don't want to confuse 20% of capacity for tech debt with Google's famous 20% time, where employees could focus on side projects unrelated to their jobs. Most likely you are expected to utilize 1/5 of the week on initiatives that directly impact the product or company's value. It can be dangerous if a business or product doesn't interfere with the tech work. Now this is a line that is kind of some might agree with and some might not. It's very 50-50, but I do understand how you arrive here, right? So if they don't care or don't understand why you do what you do, your initiatives will always be the first to be deprioritized when there are urgent things to do. So this falls more in line with the political aspect of working either at the startup or the enterprise level, because this is just getting to some people not having a clear understanding as far as like stakeholders or others in management who may not have an understanding of things at the engineering level, and this is always a cause for like priority issues, as far as like, they're prioritizing one thing and engineers might be prioritizing something else because we see things differently as far as perception. So if the value of your work is unknown, it's also much more challenging to negotiate additional investments like hiring, training, more time, etc. So it comes down to the money. So what to do? In one of my previous companies, we had monthly review meetings where product teams presented the progress of their work. In addition, representatives of the engineering group showed the progress of technical initiatives not connected to any particular team. So initiatives like Core Web Vitals improvements, migration to cloud services, framework updates, and rewriting to different languages were presented publicly to make everyone understand why we do them. One of the examples was migrating a mobile app from Objective-C to Swift. Without explanation, such a project can be seen as the engineering team playing with shiny new technology, and I can definitely understand that because initially it's like, well, why do we even need to move from Objective-C to Swift? And because that's kind of a big initiative to take on. So they pretty much clarified that it would improve compilation time to market, developer experience, and help with hiring, because at the time Objective-C engineers became significantly more expensive, and many Swift engineers declared they didn't want to deal with Objective-C code. So it ultimately was better for the business. Constant reminders of the value of technical work will make the organization support you with these initiatives rather than seeing them as a necessary evil. And that is very true, because a lot of the times people can view some of the things that engineers do as just, a necessary evil because they lack the understanding of the importance of the impact of said feature or said thing, right? So number three, diluted focus. So once you get 20% for tech, you might think it'll solve all your problems. Soon you'll realize you have made no progress anywhere. So this was, a personal experience from the person who wrote this article here. They assign, as a leader, they assign separate tech initiatives to every single person. And these tasks or areas to improve had very little in common, causing everyone to go in different directions. So there wasn't really a strategic focus on, business value and business impact, utilizing that 20% tech debt strategy in the right way. So what to do? Building a long-term engineering strategy was a true game changer for me. Once we had this picture, deciding on our goals, default behaviors, and which initiatives to focus on was much easier. So one thing you want to do as an anchor or a senior engineer, if you haven't already, is you want to build a long-term engineering strategy. You don't want, you know what I mean? You want to make sure you have everything planned out. And remember, the first trap, most of the tech debt efforts should be in the product roadmap. So number 4, we'll fix it later. So this is probably one of the most dangerous and one of the things that I often hear in engineering, right? This can be, and this is something I'm also, I guess I'm guilty of this myself, right? I do this all the time. I'll fix it, especially with rapid prototyping, especially with developing MVPs applications. I'm always, like, oh, I'll write the test later. You know what I mean? And I'm starting to switch it up and say, hey, let me write all of my tests first, right? I have this idea. Let me get my product. Let me get my app created, right? Let me get, my design kind of spun up and architect how I'm going to lay everything out. And let me actually write my unit test first for my functionality, and then start to go and implement, because it makes it a lot easier when you're actually developing and then actually going through and trying to fix bugs and whatnot, because you can always go back to your test. So don't be like me. Be better than me and write your test first. I know it can be hard because it's such a fun thing and you want to get apps up quickly and you just want to kind of see them, start testing them and demoing and seeing them work in action. But yeah, let's continue. So once your organization dedicates 20% of its capacity to tech maintenance, it becomes tempting to push things to customers even faster, assuming you will fix everything later. You will not. Dedicated time for tech is to make things better, not just less bad. Even when you build an MVP, it must be functional, usable, and reliable. Once I observed too often is one example observed too often is writing test post-release. So this is one I just mentioned. This is what typically developers will say. Once we push it to customers, we'll have a week or two to write all the missing checks. But the thing is, once you push it to customers, you're probably never going to write that test, because once you push it to production, you're going to see a bunch of stuff that you didn't see before. You're going to be like, oh man, I got to go back and fix this. The flow is kind of off. When a user logs in or when a user logs out, they don't get redirected back to the login page. Like, there's going to be a bunch of stuff that you're going to have to go in and fix, because it's going to interrupt the flow of the entire app, and it's going to make for a bad user experience. You're not going to know that until you actually push it to prod and start to really go through and have users going through and start to get feedback. So, and like I said, this is something I know from experience, because I'm always pushing apps to rapidly prototyping my ideas and pushing things to production. And I can honestly say a good portion of my GitHub repository, a good portion of the apps that I've created this year, and probably close to about 10, don't have unit tests written for the code bases. I mean, I'll just being honest. But, for me, it doesn't matter, because, I'm able to build things that make money. So it's like, once you become a developer that can build things to make, once you're able to do like, Stripe integration, and you have like your own reusable component for that in different frameworks, right? And for React, right? And then you can easily integrate it into your Angular app. So once you're able to do stuff like that, I would say it's less important that you're able to, that you're, coding, following these practices, but it's still important. I just kind of cheat because I'm really good at what I do, right? So, you have to really decide that for yourself. But I'm definitely starting to turn toward the other side of now making sure I do write those tests just to become a better developer and to also make my life a lot more easier. So the last one is effectiveness. So whether you build an MVP or another product in the iteration, you should always meet some baseline defined by non-functional requirements or your SLIs, SLOs, and SLAs. Your 20% of capacity is intended to achieve some strategic tech goals rather than fixing issues you made intentionally. So yes, in effectiveness. So 20% of capacity for tech initiatives is not that much. It's 1 day a week or 1.5 hours a day or 4 to 5 days a month. Big initiatives can take months, if not years. I haven't even mentioned how hard it is to return to the context of such work if you focus on it only 1 day a week, or how difficult it is to do something meaningful within a single hour a day. This is something I want to stress here, because when you have like 5 or 6 meetings or 3 or 4 meetings throughout the day, and then you have to take a lunch, and then you might have this, it's very hard to find like, a good hour and a half to 3 hours of focus time to where you can just focus on technical work, right? So yeah, so I want to really stress this. This is, a typical day as a SAR. You need heads down, like tunnel vision time to really get things done as a developer. And it takes at least an hour to even just get in your zone. And getting your zone in a pair programming type of dynamic is not even a thing. You know what I mean? I don't even see how you can get into a zone when you're programming with somebody else, but that's a different topic. So this ties back. So what do you do about this? So this ties back to some previous points. So first, strategic initiatives like replatforming or re-architecting should become product priorities. Their value must be known, and they should get support from the entire organization rather than being addressed when no one is watching. Such initiatives must also have a good plan. Maybe they can be broken down into smaller steps and translated into tech goals, KPIs, or non-functional requirements. There must also be a good way of tracking them so that stakeholders, for the most part, and yourself and your team can review them regularly and adjust company priorities. So that's it for this one. That's it for this one, everyone. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel and like this video if you did enjoy the topic. Leave a comment below and leave your thoughts. I want to hear what you guys have to say. Go to AIDevNow.com and grab a course and stop playing with your future. That's it for this one. Keep coding. Bye now.